Okay, welcome back to the Enshrouded Adventures. This is the last video in the series, and we've got four big things to get before our character feels like he's, done, or at least ready for the main game without any more basics to get. So the first one, we're off to get infinite arrows, very easy. We start at the Blackmere Tower, we fly down, dodge some trees. We've got the stamina nowadays that we can do this sort of climb. We probably don't have the stamina to be running along the ground though because, well, tar pits in the dark, just not a good combination. So this video, I thought I might stop jumping around so much just while we're jumping off this tree branch and go into the next area. My other two videos have been a little bit bouncy with the amount of stuff I've been doing. I thought I'd slow that down and try and show you the actual routes that I'm taking to places anyway. So, last video we unlocked the Volca language. This area that we're in is extremely Volca busy, I guess you'd say. It's not actually necessary to get the Volca language to get these arrows. Like, if you want to explore the area and get all the little notes and stuff like that, then it's incredibly important to have it. But if you just wanted to fly in and finish this quest off like so, then I guess you could do that without the skill points. But there are other points in the map where it's just convenient to be able to run around with the Volca language. We don't need them to fight for us because there's very few places on the map where animals won't suffice. Just being friends with them and running into them in emergencies, they'll fight anyway, we just don't get the XP. But as covered in the last video, we've got XP covered now. It's rolling in at a rate of knots, or a rate of knots compared to the rate it used to be coming in at anyway. Anyway, whatever the case, I like to get it before getting the Eternal Frost Arrow. Eternal Frost Arrow is just an arrow that you can spend mana on instead of actual arrows, so you never run out in theory if you want to wait for your mana bar to regen. Okay, so up next is an extremely long run. We're going to be starting a little bit before dawn because we'd like the sun to come up towards the back end of the first leg of our journey. So we're going to try and get the last remaining teleport tower that we don't have yet. You'll remember I was saying in the previous video that for this tower we really need that ring of stamina. So it's a little while off yet and we don't technically need the ring on the way there, but we will need it once we get there. Anyway, there's a little bit of running through fog. There's a little bit of running past beasties. There's a little bit of dry humping walls to try and climb them. Double jump is extremely useful for this run, like all long distance runs in this game. And you don't need to know every little corner of this run. At this stage, all we're doing is jumping off the tower and heading roughly north. There's, I think in this mist, a chasm to be aware of. Don't fall down the chasm or, well, you're probably not getting out and you'll have to do the run again. This is not one of the runs where we take all our items with us. We're going to, if we make the run past the dangerous area, then we'll stop and get some stones and build an altar and dump it down. But because the first leg of the journey is, well, particularly treacherous, I would say, there's no way I'm carrying anything important with me on this run. Sun just starting to come up now, which is what we were hoping for. You can see my guy has been picking up some new gear every now and then. It's nothing amazing. It is a small upgrade to our stamina, so of course we take it. We are opening a lot of chests nowadays on our circuits. We've got the ones in the Albany summits. We've got a chest in the Kindle Wastes, which our altar is placed quite close to, which I didn't cover before because the chest isn't level 30, but it still gives us a chance at getting items which are useful. We've got a few chests being opened nowadays anyway. And in one of them, anyway, I obviously got some stamina gear, so okay, great, bonus. This is another pathway where I was just going up. I was saying in a previous vid that give me a game like this and my exploration tendencies are just to go up and up and up until I can't go up any further. Yep, that's how I found this route. Mountains that you see in the game should not be seen as obstacles. They should be seen as, well, lookout posts, I guess, would be what I really see them as. There's no mountain that can't be scaled, and in fact at the end of the video I will prove that. Okay, so the reason that we wanted the sun up at around this point of the run, like I wasn't timing it exactly because it's not an exact science, but coming up over one of the next rises, there is our first encounter with, I guess you'd call them lizardmen. I can't think of what their actual name is off the top of my head, but they are dangerous. Not just because they do a lot of damage, because of course, well, even bugs and wolves still kill us, but because they're fast and chase us a really long way. There's also a bunch of those nighttime gremlins on the top of this hill. They're best avoided by being in daylight hours. So I guess it's actually a combination of things that we're looking to avoid with the sunlight. The gremlins, which don't spawn, and we want to be able to see lizardmen from a distance, if at all possible. Okay, so here we are on top of Death Plateau, as I tend to think of it, just because I lost so many characters trying to get across it on these separate runs. This is, of course, the run that was successful, but yeah, I don't want to mislead you and make you think it's an easy run. If you're trying to do this yourself on these settings, just know that you're probably going to die on this mountaintop, and that's probably going to happen a lot. Okay, so I'm trying to balance the line between dashing and conserving my stamina. I don't know how far behind me they are, but I know they're there. So there's my dead body from a previous attempt, and here's me panicking a little bit as I'm pretty sure they're right on my tail. I don't want to go all the way down to the ground. I really want to get my base onto one of these, well, safe pillars. And while it looks like I've been successful here, actually, this is me trying to place and it not allowing me to. So this is a bug. I assume they'll get rid of it come the real release. But just because the base turns blue does not mean you can actually place your base there. It's annoying, and at this stage the sun's going to be going down soon, and I really don't want to make that run again. You can see the shadows getting longer, so running out of time to make my decision. I decide, okay, look, it's not going to allow me to place on this plateau. Better jump to the next one. And I wasn't exactly sure which pillar was my plan B pillar, but, well, it doesn't stop me looking for it. So this is another one of those moments where I guess a little bit of panic was starting to set in. I really had died a lot on that previous plateau. I don't know if you could see how many of those goblin spore things I was running past, but there were a lot. Not to mention the horde of lizardmen. Okay, a little bit more panic placement, and the decision is pretty much made for me. It definitely can't be placed here. I've tried backing in and out of inventory and going to different numbers and going back and all the different spots I can go to. So, okay, off we jump, look for a position that maybe it'll lead somewhere, and fingers crossed, hope for the best. As it is, I get a little bit fortunate because before dark I land on this little outcropping, and this place does accept my base. So, huzzah, we've got our midway point. From here we can go back, rest up, and come back and do this during daylight hours. So, the next day, and off we go. You might notice that I am running around with a bow on this journey. This is just a really crappy, don't care if I lose it bow. I think I crafted a bunch of them before I left. The reason being that to get through this tower, not counting all the other stuff, you need a bow and arrow. There is a button that you can only press with a bow and arrow. So while we are running past a lot of beasties inside the tower, and so we don't really want to take anything valuable with us, because if we die in a room full of nasty beasties that we can't kill, we might not be able to get our loot back. But if every time we run through the tower we take a bow with us, on the time that we succeed running past all the beasties, then we'll have what we need. Running down the road in the daylight, you can see these lizardmen and how far they follow me. Every now and then I slow down to catch my breath, and you'll see them behind me swinging their weapons and trying to stab me in the back. It's probably also worth mentioning, in a previous video I was saying that almost every area the animals are, well, they're on our side. It's really nice to have them around. We're feeling pretty safe. This area is the exception. So in this area the animals are crocodiles. You find them in most of the riverways, if you swim down deep enough in lakes, etc, etc. And for some reason they don't count with our Beastmaster skill. I don't know why that is. Maybe they just wanted this area to be particularly tough and they didn't want anyone cheesing it. But look, I don't know what the story is. Whatever the case, just know that our Beastmaster skill in this particular zone does pretty much nothing. Okay, so for those that haven't done this tower before, you've got a couple of choices. You can go underwater and get in that way, or you can scale up the side. I prefer scaling up the side. We can then use the teleporter when we get inside to teleport into the water and get a checkpoint and then teleport back into the tower. It's not like we have to miss the checkpoint because we chose to go up the side this way. There is a little bit of luck in swimming across the lake. I guess there's a little bit of luck in dodging the lizardmen on the way here. The lake has crocodiles in it. It's possible that they notice you swimming along and chomp you. That's just luck of the draw as far as I can tell. They don't actually get you too often, but just if you're trying this out and you get chomped by crocodiles, don't feel ripped. Just give it another shot. I mean, if you get chomped a couple of attempts in a row, then you can start feeling ripped, but that seems quite unlikely. Or at least it is from my experience so far. Okay, and here we've skipped to the top of the tower, and this is where we need as much stamina as we can get. So the idea is we're swimming through a trap-infested waterway, attempting to get to the back where there is a button we need to push in order to get to the top of the tower. We only have so much breath, and it's not really enough. So we need to swim quite fast. I guess in theory, like we took a dud bow with us, we could take a dud cooked fish with us every run, but I actually think that's more of a pain in the butt. My solution is to get enough stamina gear to make this entire swim in one go. It takes quite a lot of attempts, and as I was pointing out before, I have stamina gear and the good ring. If you haven't picked up any extra stamina gear by this point, bad news, you're going to need 2 rings of exceptional stamina. I know I said I wasn't going to be skipping as much stuff in this video, but you don't want to see me just doing this swim 20 times in a row. I thought a quick little montage of death after death after death, and you can see just how many times I spent trying to shave off that extra second on the cornering. You need to be stubborn to do this. There's me dying in front of the button time after time after time. There is an air jet right next to the button, and if you see on a lot of these attempts, I'm carking it just shy of the button, so it really is a matter of cutting the corners just right. A few more deaths and I will show you the successful run that I managed to get after all these failed attempts. It is a little bit dark down in these waters, and you can't take a torch or anything like that, obviously. In theory, you could use a potion of the wisp or whatever those light potions are. But because, again, to get here, we had to run past a whole bunch of monsters, some of which are extremely tough. It would have been like the bow, where we needed to take one every run with us, and I just don't think that's feasible. And on top of that, you do get to know the corners of this water passage very well after not many attempts. Anyway, here is the successful run. I just scrape in with no stamina and no health, no oxygen left. Make it to the air bubbles, huzzah. Make sure I've got the breath I need to get to the button from the air vent, because I wasn't actually 100% sure that the bubbles connected to the air vent. There might have been a bit of drowning in between. Hit open door, and that's really the tough part of the tower. So with that, we have access to every teleport tower in the game, which I feel is a rather big achievement considering the difficulty level. We're not going to leave this tower straight away, so while this next segment that I'm showing you is not strictly necessary, I thought it might be, well, quite interesting. So just because the map you can explore up and around and there is so much to explore, down is also an option. So here's a great example. In the bottom of this lake there is a shipwreck, and in that shipwreck is quite a high level chest. It's a little time consuming to get, and you'll see why as I do it, but it does give us, I think, a level 39 chest, which once we make it up to this point, we might as well stop off and get at least one weapon of that level. We're going to be getting higher level weapons as we go on, but for now, 39 is great. So, as you can see, the bottom of the lake has a whole bunch of crocodiles which for some reason shoot fireballs. I don't know what the story is behind that. Maybe there's a piece of paper somewhere in the game that'll explain why. But whatever the case, when we get to the shipwreck, we can't get in to open it up. You can get items later in the game, obviously, that'll allow you to do that. But for the time being, the best way to open it up is to just swim up to the ship and let the fireballs kill you and explode the side of the ship, which is vulnerable. Being close to the spawn point, the tower, we can just respawn, swim to the still destroyed ship and go down, open the chest, die, because of course it's down the bottom and we don't have infinite air and the crocodiles are still firing fireballs at us, etc, etc, but we should be able to open the chest and then respawn again, come and get our loot, and yes, after 3 spawn attempts, then you can finally get the item from this chest. When swimming down, do save your stamina until you first see the crocodiles, then hit the speed swimming button. If you waste all your stamina too early, they're going to catch you and, well, then you're in trouble. Okay, so the boat is just down here. You swim in from this direction. Yes, we're drowning now, but that's okay. We grab the item, and because items can't drop in the water, it'll drop at the last place that we were on land, which is actually in the tower, amusingly. Well, it's not always in the tower. Sometimes we hit a rock on the way down or something, but this time it is. So, as you can see, there's one of our dead body tiki torches. And Vesta's mace. Not a bad little one-handed weapon. It doesn't glow, which, honestly, I'll take a weapon that glows over a weapon that does more damage. Weapons that glow don't get put out when you're in the rain and are just generally incredibly useful. But I'm certainly not going to turn my nose up at a level 39 weapon. Okay, so this next little segment, it's just another elixir well. We're just running off to get just a few more skill points because, well, there are still some skills that we want and we're sick of waiting for level ups. You might be going, well, I've seen how you do elixir wells now, so why are you showing me this one? I thought this one was a bit of fun. So I've cleared out the beginner enemies around the place. There are no more bugs or little guys in the area. There's just the boss guarding the Shroud route. But this is an interesting one in that there are 2 bosses guarding the Shroud route. So I was saying, okay, the Fell Thunder brutes, they're easy to deal with when there's just one of them. How do you deal with 2? The answer is to treat it very much like we did the early Shroud routes. So get their attention. Here I only grabbed 1 of their attentions. So go back and get the attention of the other one as well. Run around in circles like a headless chook for a little while, luring them a decent distance away. Not too far, or they'll just stop chasing you and wander back to the Shroud route patrol on their own. But in this case, I take them up to the top of that little narrow bridge there, run back down and start chopping away at the Shroud route. Don't get greedy, probably can't do the entire chop all in one session, so make sure to run and lure them back and rinse repeat. But yeah, just because we're starting to feel tough with weapons and gear and skill points, etc, etc, there are still going to be plenty of places in the game which are way too tough for us to actually fight. I mean, maybe we could do the staircase trick up somewhere and pepper them with arrows for just ages, but because they're not really relevant, like we don't care if we kill them or not, I just thought I'd put this in to say, don't lose sight of just running past things. You don't have to fight everything in the game. In fact, if you do, you risk being sent just a little bit crazy by the game. Okay, so with those skill points, we now have enough to get all the basics on the tree. We have 30% reduced stamina while gliding, we have Beastmaster, we have double jump, we have the Volca language, and we even have an extra couple of minutes in the Shroud. So no more always having to respec whenever we go to a new zone or a new area. We just have all the basics now. So from this point we can start investing in, well, whatever we feel like really. Maybe some weapon skills, maybe some toughness, maybe we want some stamina orbs to drop when we use a bow. Like, really, we've got all the choices, but this is the skill tree that I recommend for the base. Okay, and now for some fun and something I'm quite proud of actually. So I mentioned earlier that I was going to prove that you can scale any mountain in the game. So if you go far enough north, you'll find a castle on top of a mountain which is extremely endgame and quite hard to get through. Normally you have to be able to go through the shroud and beat up beasties and all that sort of stuff. So I scaled up the mountain as far as I reasonably could and stuck a base. The base has to be a certain distance away from this castle, and its radius is huge. So I really couldn't get my base very close. But upgrading the base to level 3 and then just building a big, massive staircase got me just to the point where I could glide over to this part of the castle. And from here, well, we know the drill. We jump, double jump, dry hump the wall, look for sections we can roll up, stick to, glide along. We're going to scale the outside bit by bit and bypass all those difficulties, which, well, again, this castle would be incredibly problematic to get to with all the beasties you would normally have to fight to get in. So over this wall here, if we had turned right, we end up at the throne room and there is a level 50 golden chest, which I will show you in a moment. But I like to go left and you'll see the route that I take. I've gone in daylight hours so that you can get a good look at my pathway through. There are a couple of chests, so here's one in this little side room. This is not a very good chest. It gives you, well, some items. There are plenty of items around this castle. Actually, there's all sorts of real endgame loot just sprinkled around in boxes and such. It actually replaces my other farming route once I get here. But we're scaling up the inside. We will climb up this trellis here just to get another little chest that's tucked away. All part of the route that I've got worked out. If you decide to copy my plan of the big staircase base, but you discover that you don't have the resources to upgrade your base to level 3, so you can't build a big enough staircase, there is an alternative. You can just use multiple bases. So you build a level, say, 2 base, you build a platform as high as you can, you put another altar on that platform, and you can start building another staircase from there. So you're never completely stuck. I don't recommend that particular trick because altars are limited and I find them incredibly valuable. Sprinkling them around the map to give you access to places which would otherwise be really inconvenient to get to even with all the teleporters unlocked. That's by far the best use of them, at least in my mind. Anyway, whatever the case, the reason that we want to get to the top of this castle is to get through these locked doors, so don't forget to bring a lockpick, very important. I'm just running around. I don't really know which bookcases have loot and which don't, so I'm checking all the spots. We have Beastmaster, which means that the really nasty bugs here don't attack us. In fact, we can even ask them to guard us and take them with us if we want to go XP hunting or checking out other parts of the castle or some such. Don't mind me just having difficulty picking up the loot off the chair and not actually sitting on the chair. But the reason that we've come in here is up the back. If you look up, you will see a grappling hook to... I don't think it's meant to be a secret room, but it is very easy to miss if you're not on the lookout for it. Like, it's certainly not as hidden as the underwater ship that I showed you at the last tower, but I still think it is very well hidden. And this chest here drops items which can be upgraded to level 50, which, well, that's about as good as you're going to get. I've yet to see them drop any gear. I say them because here is the throne room. Behind the throne there is another golden chest which drops items, the weapons of which can be upgraded to level 50. So yeah, I haven't seen these chests drop any clothing, but whatever the case, having a nice easy farming route for level 50 weapons, well, I probably don't need to explain to you just how much of a win that feels like on this difficulty. So we are now getting really kitted out. Our weapons are, at least. Our clothing, we've changed again since the start of this video, but not by much. It's only very minor upgrades. There is one last thing that we need to get in order to say that we've conquered this difficulty. So this is a run through the very, very southeastern portion of the map. Once again, going to involve scaling some walls, jumping, double jumping, dry humping, etc. And we are going to go and get ourselves the top level glider, the ghost glider. We haven't bothered with all the intermediary gliders. I think we've got the second level one at the moment. We might still be on the first level glider. This is me just noticing a cave I hadn't noticed before and checking it out. I do know large parts of the map, but there's still many places left to discover, and, well, you're never going to find them if you don't look. Anyway, the place we're going is essentially on the opposite side of this mountain range, and while I have done the run a couple of times, I've shared a run where I get a little bit lost, but it is in daylight hours. So if you want to copy the route, you'll at least be able to figure out what the correct route is. So here, I've gone too far left. There's some shroud. I'm realizing I've gone the wrong way. I have a look around for some alternate routes because, well, there might be a shortcut that I didn't know about. But, okay, I've gone the wrong way. Turn right, go back, go via the route that I know. I'm still keeping an eye out for potential other routes to take, though. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of this little video trilogy. Pretty much we're going to finish this little trek across the mountains, clear out a temple, get the ghost glider, put it to the test just to show the difference when gliding from my base to that castle way up north, and that'll be that. We'll have access to all the teleporter towers, we'll have easy access to multiple top level chests, meaning we have the weapons and we'll get the gear eventually. We can run through most sections of the game safely, or at least somewhat competently. Animals don't attack us, we'll have time in the shroud, etc. And possibly most importantly, we'll have access to a source of experience. So we're not going to be stuck behind skill walls, sitting there going, well, we could possibly do this next area if only we had the skill points. We can just sit around and wait for the XP to come to us. So pretty much a win. After that, the next step, in my opinion, is base building, which is its own video in itself, and I'm not going to include it. If anyone's interested and wants to see me build that base on the side of the mountain, just let me know in the comments. I imagine it's probably not the most exciting thing. I plan on building Snake Mountain from He-Man, Skeletor's Fortress of Solitude equivalent. For those that don't know the old cartoon, it's essentially two mountains with a lot of spikes and a snake coiled around one of them, and I figured I could have the launch point for the jump to the northern mountain coming out of the snake's mouth. That's an idea. It's going to take more than a little while to build because, well, of course, getting resources is a pain in the butt on this mode, even if we do have all our tricks up and happening at this stage. Anyway, just like I can be a little bit pedantic about what my character looks like, when it comes to base building, I can spend... it would make the amount of time that I've spent on this game so far pale in comparison. Anyway, let me know what you think. If you've got any comments on what you'd like to see me do in this game or attempt, or if you just think my jumping is crap, as it obviously is, not being able to get over this wall, let me just let my stamina refresh and we'll try that again. But yeah, if you've got any sort of ideas for what you'd like to see, hey, let me know. Maybe I'll be keen. Really, at this point now, I'm just sitting around waiting for the next expansion to come out. Like, yes, there's always more exploring to do and masses left to do on this game, but I'm not going to feel like I've got unfinished business if the new expansion comes out and I have to ditch this save file and start again. Which really translates to putting the save file aside, thinking, yes, I'll get back to that, but knowing that I never will. Okay, so we're getting close to the Sun Temple now. One little glide, a little walk around the hillsides. There it is up ahead even. We need to get to the top story of that structure just straight ahead of us. So this area, as you can probably guess by it being tucked away on the far outskirts of the map and relatively difficult to get to, it is quite heavily guarded. The skeletons are no joke. So we're going to get a nice vantage point. We're just going to jump up this mountainside, pull out our bow, and kill just as many as we possibly can. We've loaded up on arrows. We have our infinite arrows if we can be bothered waiting for our mana to regen. Really, it's just a matter of spotting them. Just here, I'm shooting one skeleton sort of in the doorway window in the distance there. There's actually 4 that you can see. They're pretty much just specks at this range, but that's okay. If you're trying to do this method and you can't tell where they are, run down the mountainside, have a good look around, come back, and then shoot where you know they are. There are some on patrol, and there is one real nasty guy on the balcony. The ones on patrol I'll show you how to deal with soon enough, and the guy on the balcony, I suggest you just dodge. If you really want to kill him, the easiest method is to kill everyone else in the tower and then run upstairs, and there is a bird in a nest, and we can ask it to guard us and then come back downstairs. And yeah, bird versus skelly. Well, the bird's probably going to win, but it can be a bit of a messy fight. Okay, so we've killed everyone that we have easy access to with arrows, so we're not going through the front door. That's a big mistake. We're going through this little window entrance on the side here, and all we're going to do is turn on the traps. So make sure that there's no one around. It's very easy to have missed a skeleton or two. A bow is highly recommended here, but if you made it here without a bow, then, I mean, well done. You've got some real nifty combat skills, but really you should have a bow just wandering around here. So as you can see, I pressed that button, and in the distance some skeleton has started to take damage. Here's the corpse of some guy I peppered with arrows earlier. Never hurts to loot up whenever you can. Okay, second button activates even more traps in the area. And now patience is a virtue. Just wait till all the health bars stop going down. There's all sorts of traps. There's lightning, there's, you can see a fireball there. But yeah, without the skeletons wandering around back and forth, it's not really a very dangerous tower at all. Okay, so here's our bird friend that I was telling you about. If you can be bothered to hit start guarding and then take him down to the big skelly down below. I'm not going to bother with that. I ran past the skelly, picked up the stuff that was there and ran away again. There might be some other loot around this tower, but really all we're here for is the ghost glider. Everything else pretty much pales in comparison compared to it importance-wise. Okay, so a bit of a grapple, a bit of a wander. It's easy to miss the way up in this tower, I find, so I'm just showing you the last little bit. Or at least I found it easy to miss. This trellis I didn't spot for an embarrassingly long amount of time. So anyway, grapple, walk, trellis, wander, 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 one more grapple, and here's the chest that we've come here for. And voila! All the goals of the game that we set out to achieve are accomplished. So with that, we'll just quickly put it to the test at our base. But otherwise, if you've made it this far, thanks very much for watching. Let me know what you think. I am open to any suggestions people might have. And yeah, good luck with your own adventures, and maybe I'll catch you around Embervale sometime. See ya.